I am Jay Stevens, a finance nerd who has used technology to improve financial processes for corporations for the past 15 years. You are ready to take control of your financial future so that you too can say, I am rich like my melanin. Hello, everyone. I am Jay Stevens, the host of Rich Like My Melanin, and we are back with another episode of Everybody Knows Somebody Who Knows Somebody Who Knows Something About It, the series where I introduce you to all the cool entrepreneurs and creatives who can inspire you to go out and use your skills to change the world. Today, we are speaking with Yanely Espinal, a Brooklyn-born ball of energy. She is an educator with a gift for storytelling and a passion for explaining financial concepts in a straightforward way. While working as an elementary school teacher, she decided to change her financial life by paying off $20,000 in just 18 months. Run that back, $20,000 in 18 months. And you know, teachers do not get paid well, so that was a true sacrifice. Yeah. In 2015, she started MissBeHelpful, a YouTube channel that now has over 4 million views to help others learn about money skills she never learned in school. Yanely is also the director of educational outreach for Next Gen Personal Finance, a nonprofit working group to ensure that everyone in high school gets a full semester of personal finance education. She's also the host of the Marketplace podcast and a member of CNBC's Financial Wellness Council. And on a personal note, I saw her speak at a conference and thought, oh, she's so dope. Like there was this pure positivity. There was excellent advice. You know, she wasn't just telling us any old thing. And overall, I said, you know, in real life, we could be friends. Like this is, I see this. So I was so thrilled when she decided to come on the show today and share all the information about her life, her book. You can see it's nicely displayed behind her. We like a nice product placement. We like it. So let's just get right into it. Welcome to the show. Hello, hello, hello. Picture the audience is all going, oh, yes, in the background. Yeah. Okay. I know I just gave you a brief biography, but I want people to truly understand that you are a superwoman. You have an Ivy League degree and your graduate degree.
That's right.
And you use that to not just say, okay, I made this money, but to really bridge the gap in personal financial education. You started your YouTube channel to educate others. You simultaneously paid off all that debt. You helped your family start a savings plan, keeping up the legacy and recognizing as one of 8, that meant that you could do a lot. It wasn't just one of 8. That's one of 8 with potential to do a lot with all 8 together. And so then fast forward 8 years after that, you have these national speaking engagements. You have your brand new book. We're going to get to it. And more. So like, what's this journey been like for you? Yeah. What advice do you have for other people who are trying to be their own version of a superhero? And how do you manage it all, really? Like, when do you sleep?
I love this. First of all, thank you, Jay, for bringing me on, because I feel like after so much time putting into this, like you feel like it kind of becomes like you saying the same things over and over and over again. But you got, I mean, I have to remind myself there's so many people to reach. Everybody can hear the message again. And even if it feels to me like I'm saying the same things over and over again, you constantly just have to keep talking about it and keep putting the word out there, because you can always reach somebody new. So thank you for bringing me on your platform. But what has the journey been like? Oh my goodness. I mean, I think it just is, to be honest, at first it feels overwhelming, but once you get into it and you start seeing the progress and like getting some results, you just feel like motivated to just keep going, because like you're getting some results. So you know it's working, and then you just want to keep going and going. And so that's pretty much what it has felt like for me. Like I feel like I've gotten results and have used that as a fuel, as motivation to not quit. It's the easiest thing to do is to quit when it comes to money stuff, because financial progress it takes time and it takes a lot of work, dedication. You have to change your habits, which is one of the hardest things to do in life, period. So all of those things combined, it just means, and then plus everybody around you, for the most part, most people around you are going to be doing, you know, the same kind of thing that society just pushes you to do, just like spend your money and live your life and YOLO. And so then if you're trying to do something in the opposite direction of that, you're fighting against the grain, you're swimming against the current. So now it's even harder. So it definitely is going to take a lot of mental resilience. You have to make a decision and go with it, like go all in on that. And you know, once you do that, then I feel like you kind of settle into this place where you find peace and you find calm, and you're like, all right, yes, I'm doing the right thing. It's difficult, but like, I feel like I know I'm moving in the right direction, because you know, I got that feeling of like, this is the right place and the right time for me. So, I mean, you mentioned a lot of things that I did, but it didn't all happen overnight. I just want to make that really clear. Like I was a mess with money. In my book, I talk about as a kid, like getting caught stealing because we didn't have any money. So I was clearly like a little troublemaker early on. But at the same time, I really wanted to make my parents proud. So I think in school is where I really did well. Like I like to read a lot, and I like to, get good grades in school to make my parents proud. And I was a little teacher's pet. So, a classroom setting kind of like helped me find a place where I felt like I could thrive, I could do well. And that led me later on to getting scholarships and all these kinds of things. So I didn't have to worry too much about student loan debt. But what nobody talked to me about was like, if you get a full ride to college, you still have to cover out of pocket your textbooks, your laptop, your school supplies, your decorations for your dorm room. If you want to be hanging out, if you want to be social with your little friends, you want to go to the movies, you want to go to Chipotle, you want to go bowling, you want to go to a party, you have to pay for all of that. That's not covered by the full ride. Like the scholarship doesn't give you money for those things. And that was such a major thing for me. Like college life, it was a lot of that, a lot of going out, a lot of socializing, hanging out, trying to figure out who I am, where I fit in, and like, my identity. And so I ended up spending a lot of money on credit cards. And that was the $20,000 payoff, debt payoff journey that took me 18 months, was really just tackling the credit cards, because it was something that I just didn't realize. Like if I kept making my minimum payments, it was going to take me like so long. I was going to be in debt, it felt like, for the rest of my life. So I realized quickly, once I did the math, that, okay, I'm going to have to put way more than what they're telling me I owe. If they send me a bill that says, $50 is due this month, I got to send 500. Like I can't just take their plan of attack. I have to make my own plan of attack, because they'll keep me in debt forever and make a bunch of interest fees off me. So that understanding, I think, it made me feel empowered to, like, because now I actually understand the money. I understand the process of paying back and how interest accrues and what this relationship between me and this credit card company actually is. So I think for me, that's what made me so passionate about paying it forward. Like I could just keep this all to myself and be really proud of myself, or I could tell everybody, hey, listen, there's some things that you need to learn that school doesn't always teach us when it comes to understanding how money works, borrowing responsibly, paying off debt, building wealth. And so that was when I just decided, I'm gonna dance to the beat of my own drum. I'm not gonna go live life the way everybody tells me to, go find a partner, get engaged, get married, buy a house, have a baby, all these things. It's like money, more debt, more debt. I was like, okay, I have to ignore all of that and get serious about what is my life going to look like, what's going to make me happy, what makes sense for me financially. And so I got my bachelor's, I got my master's. I decided not to go to corporate, but instead to do nonprofit route, and just to continue to push financial education to help. In my mind, I see it as like freeing more people, like getting more people access to this knowledge, this information that can be very freeing. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of like jump ups, a lot of ups and downs, I think, but ultimately the journey has been really, really freeing. And honestly, something that is probably one of the things I'm the most proud of in my life is helping other people, become financially empowered.
And can I just say, like, I can tell this is something you're passionate about. It's not like, oh, I'm just doing this because I lucked into it, or I'm
Right.
trying to be a social media influencer and be a star. First off, you did this before being an influencer was really a term.
Yes.
You started this, but two, like the energy and the fact that you're transparent with. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't, raised in some silver spoon, and I have all this access to resources, and I've never made a money mistake.
Right.
Realistically, a lot of us have to figure this out. I've shared that I had my 50K in debt that I had to pay out. And it was from college. It was because once I graduated, I thought I was a big grown woman with a big grown job. And then I
Mhm.
sat there and said, okay, and trying to play keeping up with the Joneses and travel
Yes.
internationally and go to nice restaurants. And eventually I had to figure out how to pay off that debt. I
It
didn't like
catches
it,
up
but
with
it was
you.
mine.
It
Now,
catches
I
up.
mean, I would like if somebody paid off my student loans, but I'll pay off my credit card debt. You mentioned that, the banks, like they will give you the statement, and now at least it is legally required when you see a bank statement, they have to show you the minimum payment, and then they show you how long it would take to pay off the
Right.
entire balance if you only made the minimum payment and didn't charge anything else. And that was something that came out, I believe, in like the early 2010s,
Hmm.
as far as being a legal requirement.
Right.
But you mentioned that like the banks are doing what they do. They are a for-profit organization. So they are going to find ways to keep, themselves in business. And that
Right.
was one of the actual chapters, actually the name of a chapter in your book, like the Mean Girls and Banks Are Your Friend. I told you I was doing my research. So that actually kind of gets us into the next question, which is
Yeah.
talking about your book,
Mm,
Mind Your Money. So there's tons of personal finance books out there. And some
yeah.
people just mess around and, create something on Canva and drop it out into the ethos and think we're supposed to read it. No shade to them. But I
Yeah.
like to call out the people that actually write information that is not only truthful, factual, sound financial advice, but
Yeah.
in your case, not dry and boring. Like
Yeah.
something that is fun. And you do it in a way of sharing stories. You're not just saying,
Yes.
oh, invest and save. You're saying, like, this is what happened to me.
Right.
This is what makes it something worth learning about. And this is how you can avoid being in the same situation. Plus,
Exactly.
it's not just me who thinks this is a pretty cool book. It is Amazon and the people who have been reviewing it. You have a perfect 5-star rating.
Yeah.
And in the world of the internet, there's always like one hater lurking in the shadows. You have none.
Not yet,
And we
girl. They coming. I'm
look,
sure they're gonna pop
clap
out the woodwork.
emojis and all of that. Because 5-star rating, we're gonna keep that lifted and put that on the prayer altar that it stays there. We are
Yes.
supporting and celebrating with you, celebrating that with you. So with this book, what are you hoping that people get out of it? Who do you think is the target audience? And what was it like to write your own book?
Yeah. So I think the first question, so what I want people to get out of it, I wrote in the book that this book, my goal with it was for it to be your little source of hope. I think that there's so many people that are in financial situations where they just feel hopeless. And hopelessness is like, I think we overlook it and don't pay as much attention to it these days, but it's a really big problem. When you feel hopeless, when you feel like there's no point in going forward, there's nothing that you're going to do. You're not going to put any action, any effort. You're not going to do any work because you feel there's no point. And that can be such a bad crutch that can just hold you back and hold you down and not allow you to progress or to do anything better with your life. So in whatever area of your life, whether it's your health, your nutrition, your fitness, whether it's your finances, whether it's your relationship, hopelessness, once you hit that point, that's rock bottom. Like that's the worst because now you really don't see the point and don't believe it's worth any effort. So my goal was to try to find people that feel hopeless about their financial situation or feel like it's hopeless to really put any effort into trying to progress or, get better at their money and show them that there's so much hope that there is a point and that there's so many benefits that you can get from moving forward. And maybe it doesn't mean that you're going to become a millionaire, or a multimillionaire. Like I think social media has gotten us to this point where we're desensitized. We hear millionaire like, oh, okay, so what? No, being a millionaire is a big deal. Okay, let's stop downplaying it and stop acting like it's not a big deal. Most people in this country are never going to see $1 million or more. And if you can create a lifestyle where you're working towards that, that's amazing. And so trying to show people, how is that something that can be accessible to you? How can that be made available to you? How can you make it available to yourself? Taking, the bull by the horns and saying, all right, what do I need to do? What can I do now, tomorrow, next week, next month, and continue to do to put myself in a situation where I'm better off and I'm on track to move to a place where I'm thriving financially instead of, stressing out about money every day. So that's the big thing. I really want my book to be kind of like that little hope in a book, that gift that keeps giving, because once you read it, then at the end of my book, I put in there that I don't want this to be a self-help book. I didn't just help myself when I learned about money. I wanted to help others. And so I want this book to be a help others book. So once you finish it, you pay it forward, you pass it on, you gift it to someone else, you buy a copy for the local library, you buy a class set for the school, you give it to somebody that needs it. So for me, it's really about like this community building to the point where everybody feels like, oh, we're learning in community. And, that kind of goes back to like the work I've been doing with trying to make sure schools teach financial literacy, because the reality is when we don't know about a lot of the information, and in my book is just the basics, right? There's so many more nuance, there's so much more complexities. I just included the basics, high level basic financial literacy, because I really do feel like it's an intro book. It's that book that kind of makes you feel really good, makes you feel motivated to start to take that step or to pick up where you left off. If you started your journey and then quit, this is the time to kind of recommit. And so that's kind of the gift that I want the book to be for people. And then in terms of like the process of writing it, I got to tell you, I'm not a natural writer. I am a natural storyteller. Like when I was in elementary school, I used to win all these contests for storytelling championships. I used to go upstate New York and like take a bus all the way up to Albany and compete against all the other storytellers in the state of New York. And I would win trophies like every year. So I would memorize the book and, recite it from start to finish, like perform the book, do all the different voices for the different characters. And I knew every word by heart. And then the panel of judges would sit there and watch me perform the book and have the book in front of them. They would be flipping the pages, making sure I was saying every word correctly. I didn't skip a word or I didn't mess up. And so I've naturally always been obsessed with telling stories and, books and stuff. So I knew there was something in me to tell a story. But when it comes to writing, if I see a blank Google Doc in front of me, I'm just like, like I'd rather do anything in the world than start typing because I don't enjoy writing. So for me, I ended up going with a company that worked with you to actually transcribe what your book is going to be. So I would talk like interviews verbally on the phone for hours and hours and hours, answering questions, going through the outline of the book. This is what I want this section to say. This is what is really important to include here. And then literally just transcribe those words onto the page. So now I'm not starting from a blank page. I'm actually starting from all the words I just said, just written for me. So now I can copy, paste, chop and screw, and rework it into the stories that I want on the page. So I would recommend to anybody who's watching this, if you feel like you want to write a book, but you are not a writer, you don't have to be a writer. Putting your story out there, telling your message to the world, you don't have to be a writer to do that. So I would just want to empower people because I feel like for me, I always thought, I don't like writing, I'm not gonna be a writer. And you can still put a book together, even if you don't sit there and go like type word by word and lock yourself up in a cabin somewhere and write for 2 years till your book is done. Like that's just, I think we've been conditioned to think that that's what writing a book looks like. And writing a book could look a lot of different ways. In my case, it was auditory, talking to a microphone, recording my voice, and then transcribing that. And then me working on and reworking on through that, revising it, editing it, and all that. And then to your point, like, I think for me, the big thing was there's so many books about money, like in my little office, I have so many books about personal finance and I love reading. I mean, that's how I got into all of this. Was the first book I ever read about money was Susie Orman's Women and Money. And I picked that book up when I was in my early 20s. And thank goodness I picked it up then, because if it would have came any later in my life, I would have probably been in worse debt. So it came at a really opportune time when I was like young. I didn't have kids. I was in a relationship. Like there were a lot of things that I could be independently, like I had the autonomy to like make decisions about my money and what I want to do with my paycheck. And so I wanted to write a book, but I didn't want it to just feel like it was a bunch of information, from cover to cover. So I thought to myself, what's different about me and what's always been different about me from everybody else around me. And in my case, going off to college, getting a scholarship, being in these environments, an Ivy League environment, like I've always been that different. I've always been different because I'm loud. I have a big personality. I'm always telling stories. I talk with my hands. Like growing up a daughter of Dominican immigrants in New York City, there's a certain sass, there's a certain culture, there's a certain way we act, right? It's just that culture. So I feel like I want that to come through in my book. I want it to be really obvious that this is not your average everyday money book. And the real thing that makes me is like the stories of my life, the stories of things that I've been through and the experiences that I've had. So I decided, okay, like in writing this book, I'm going to make it a combination of the strategies that obviously help you get better with money and the stories, the personal stories that really make me who I am and have helped me kind of get to this place, even though I'm not somebody who was born with a trust fund or who had parents who knew about banking. Like my parents never had a bank account. I mean, I put all of this in the book. They never had a bank account until it was time for my dad to retire. And we had to go online and do his Social Security Administration thing on the website and apply for Social Security benefits. And they were like, you need a bank account. Like you can't, in order to claim your benefits, they have to direct deposit it into a bank account. And he was so upset, like why they can't just mail me a check. And I was like, they don't do that no more, Bobby. Like they just don't mail checks anymore. So you see the world of money is changing. It's becoming more digitized. If we don't teach students, if we don't teach people how to keep up, this next generation is just going to be more confused about like where things are going, how things look so different, but we're not catching up. We're not keeping up. So for me, like a lot of that stuff was what I wanted to include to show people who are like me that, hey, there's still hope for you. Even if you don't fit that cookie cutter story of somebody whose family has money, who understands money, who's been investing in stocks since they were 12 years old, who, had a bank account and a debit card when they were into high school. Like that might not be you, But that doesn't mean there's not a seat at the table for you in this world of financial empowerment, because there was one for me. And so it just means you have to work a little harder and like be a little bit more resilient. But again, I think the possibilities are endless when it comes to you taking the bull by the horns and like making your own path when it comes to your finances and your money journey.
Yanely, I love it. Like again, just because I tend to be a high energy person until my social battery runs out. So being able to see you just like the passion, it leaps off the screen. I want to draw attention to something that you brought up, two things. One, the importance of just starting somewhere.
Yes.
So for you, you said like I not a writer, but I'm a great storyteller, but I found a way to connect those and I started from there. And then you also mentioned it earlier, and when we were talking about your background and how you didn't just wake up and say, "Oh, I'm debt free." Like you started somewhere, and it was the mindset of, "This is the goal I have. This is what I'm going to do," and I went through it. And for those of y'all who have been watching this series for a while, you know our very first guest was Amber of Blessed Little Bungalow. And she shared how she just wanted to decorate her home one day. And so she decorated just a piece of her home, like her I think it was her office. She just, said this is something I want to do. And fast forward, I think about the same timeline as you, about 8 years. Now she's on the cover of HGTV magazine. And now she has her own product line at Home Goods. And so it's the fact that you can have these, huge dreams. And you might not come from a place that necessarily shows you how to get to that, but it doesn't mean you can't dream big as long as you have the mindset and the discipline and you have some kind of plan in place.
Boom.
I love it. Also, I just feel like dope people will find
Yeah.
each other and it will get there. You mentioned also the second thing I wanted to bring up. You mentioned the importance of getting, like you read the Susie Orman book, Women and Money, when you were in your 20s. But what you do right now as the director of educational outreach for Next Gen Personal Finance, also y'all check out their YouTube page. They have a pretty big following too. That organization is the leading provider of financial educational curriculum. It's a nice full title. And you mentioned the importance of, getting the information out at the right time. So while it was fortunate, favorable for you that you got it in your 20s, your organization is really pushing to make sure that people don't have to wait until their 20s, that
Yes.
somewhere between elementary and high school, they can get this. Unfortunately, more and more states are starting to require this too, like in the early education, childhood education. We
Yes.
have some of our friends in our community who are like the ones going to the state house and they're talking to legislators to say, look, if you want to get reelected, come out here and do something right for these kids.
Boom.
So what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, like you're in support of it, but what
Yes.
are ways that you think people can get involved if they want to make sure their children, the people in their community get access to this information at a younger age?
Yes. Okay. So actually I'll tell a little bit of background, because I get a lot of questions about, how did you get involved in this work? Like you're changing laws, and I don't understand how people, everyday people can do something like that. So I started my career as a teacher. When I graduated college, I went straight into teaching. A couple years into that, I realized like, okay, I'm not going to retire as a teacher. I don't, like it's not calling to me every single day for the rest of my life to do this. So I pivoted out of education and started looking to work in business so I could learn about, money, running a business. That was interesting to me, but I never studied it. So I had to figure out a way to get over to business using my education master's and the skills that I had in education. So I started running an after school tutoring program. So it was like math and reading in a learning center after school. And there were like 400 students. So I had to collect tuition from 400 families. I had to market the center, try to get new, families to come and sign up and, do the actual planning for each of the students in the center. So I was doing that for about a year and a half. After a year and a half, I realized, okay, this job is like, I enjoyed it at first, but then it becomes like very rote, like the same thing day in and day out. And so I knew right away, okay, maybe that was one of the reasons why teaching, I kind of lost like my love and passion being in the classroom and also in the learning center, because once you kind of set things up, it's the same thing day in and day out. And I realized I need something that's different. I need to be, kept on the edge of my seat. Otherwise I get bored. Once things are too routine, I check out. So I'm like, okay, now that I know that about myself, how can I use my skills to do something that's different every day? And so I started looking in nonprofit work. I was looking for like still something around education. I was working at a literacy intervention nonprofit called Reading Partners, where you actually work with volunteers from the community to come into the local public schools and read with the kids who are far behind in reading and help them catch up into their grade level. I really love that work. But again, after like 2 years or so, I'm like, okay, getting into this routine, good at this, but want to take a break. So that's when I was like kind of getting a YouTube following a little bit. And so I took some time off and I was like, do I really want to be a YouTuber? Like, do I want to be a creator? Do I want to be constantly making videos all the time, every day? Doing like, it can be a little bit exhausting. And for me, I actually get my energy from other people. So like, I'm a very extroverted extrovert. And so being behind a camera by myself all the time, making content, it drains me sometimes because I'm not talking to other people, hugging other people, like meeting other people. So I realized, okay, I like this, but it's not going to be like my main thing. It's going to support the work that I'm doing. It's going to allow me to reach people. It's going to allow me to create content that helps further the message. But the work I need to be doing is like in person with real people, changing real lives. So that kind of helped me figure it out. But I didn't know how to do that. So I just kind of took that summer off. It was 2018. I had saved up a little bit of money and I left my job. So I went to Barcelona with my boyfriend and we were just in Barcelona like for the summer. And then I got in touch, somebody reached out to me from Next Gen Personal Finance. So ngpf.org is the website. And they were like, we have free curriculum. We have like all these lessons and activities. We teach financial literacy to middle school, high school, all this stuff. And I was like, how come I never heard of this? When I was a student, I never learned it. When I was a teacher, I never heard of it. So what is missing to make this like widespread? And so then I said, okay, let me think about like how I could be involved in this, because this does combine my passion for personal finance with my expertise in education, like in a pretty, nice way. So I was like, okay, I reached back out to them. I did a podcast with them in 2018. And then later in that same year, we did a project where I went from like just in the tri-state area, like New York, New Jersey, a little bit of Connecticut, but mostly New York and New Jersey. And I traveled to like over 100 high schools and I did workshops with the students. And afterwards, I would talk to the teachers about, hey, listen, if you want to keep teaching them this stuff because they love it, here are the lesson plans. You don't even have to buy curriculum. It's all free. It's all here. And so I loved doing that because, of course, like the students just, they're so into it. Like they just start asking a million questions and they want to know about money and why they're not learning about it in school. And so talking to them about that, it gave me so much energy. I was like, all right, I want to do more of this work. But the problem is I realized then it's not being taught because it's not required. So if it's an elective class, you might have like 2 or 3 sections in the whole school. So which is what, if there's 30, 40 kids in each section, you might be getting 100 kids out of thousands that are learning personal finance. That's like a tiny percentage. How do we get more? How do we get all of the students to get access to this? And the only way to do it is to make it a required class, just like biology, just like algebra, just like we have to take certain classes before you graduate. Financial literacy has got to be one of those classes. So that's when, I kind of joined NGPF full time. That was in August of 2018. And at that time, it was still just like curriculum. I was making videos. I was helping teachers, doing teacher training. Then in 2021 was the idea, kind of like the big light bulb was like, all right, if this doesn't become required, we could do all the work we want to do, but it's still not going to reach every kid. And so then an affiliated organization called the Mission 2030 Fund was created, and I became an advocate there. And through that work, it was like, okay, the first big successful state that we had where we really like got through and saw effect was in Rhode Island, which Rhode Island is a tiny state, but Rhode Island happened where they took a half a credit from their electives. So like basically instead of having to do a semester long of an elective class, you had one less semester of electives. And now that semester got replaced by a personal finance class. Once it happened in Rhode Island, it happened in Ohio, then it happened in Florida, which was a bill that I was very much involved in because I have just moved to Florida in that time. Iowa, Georgia, Michigan, Kansas came next, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Indiana, and then this year, Indiana, Minnesota, Connecticut, and Louisiana. So we have had, from when I started this work, 5 states that required a full semester of personal finance at the high school level. Now as we're talking early July 2023, we have 22 states. So this is such an incredible, like a fast amount of progress to go from 5 to 22 in such a short time. It's because there's a clear initiative. Mission 2030 Fund is actually like working on advocating. And 2, because more and more people are starting to become aware that there's a huge gap and we need to speak up about it. So if you want to participate in that, like the best way to do that is to find out, first of all, are you in a state that already requires this for high school? If not, if you're one of the other states that are not on that list of 22 states, then you have got to find out who are the decision makers, who are the people that are in charge of education laws in your state. That's going to be the education committee members on both sides. So on the Congress side and on the rep side. So you want to look for who are the representatives that sit on the side that are going to actually go through meetings for education. So you want to look for the House Committee on Education, and that's going to be all of the representatives that specifically were assigned to education committee. Then on the Senate side, you want to look for all the senators who are on the education committee on the Senate side. So the Senate Education Committee and the House Education Committee, two committees, both for education in your state. Look for who are the members, who are the senators on the Senate Education Committee, who are the reps on the House Education Committee. Find their names. This is all public available information. You could Google it just like, you would Google anything else, right? So once you find out who these people are, you can pull their email addresses from the websites. You can, from your state website, you can tweet at them. You can tag them on Facebook, tag them on Instagram and on wherever, and start letting it be known that, hey, we're seeing all these other states near us adding financial literacy to the high school graduation requirements. Why is our state falling behind? Why is our state not doing this? When is the education committee going to take this up? And when they start to see their own constituents, people that live in the zip code that they served, where they got elected, are asking questions about financial literacy, you best believe they're going to start taking financial literacy seriously, and they're going to add it to their next agenda for their, for their education committee meetings. So I think it really does take that grassroots type of work, emails, tweets, Facebook, like that type of stuff, writing letters, putting in the mail, sending it to them. Their legislative aides are collecting the mail, and they will let them know, like, we got 10 letters this week about financial literacy. Oh, like people are really, but this is a hot topic. They can't ignore it once it gets to that point. So I would say if you want to get involved, that's the easiest, quick thing to do. It'll take you maybe 8-9 minutes to do during your lunch break. Just quickly go pop into the Googles, hit up the Googles and find out who are these people, and copy and paste their emails and send this email. Hey, my name is this. I live in this zip code. I've been, I've been watching the financial literacy issue closely across the country. I noticed so many states recently, 22 states have passed it. Our state has not. Why are we falling behind? When is this going to get taken up in your meetings? I need answers because my kids are going to high school soon, or because, I teach at a high school, or because my kids are in middle school now and will soon. Whatever your reason why you care so much about this, include it there so they can see your passion. That's the way we're going to move the needle. That's the way we're going to really actually be able to get them to take these issues seriously.
Yes. Okay, look, listen, y'all. So we talk on this channel, on this platform, about the importance of being civically engaged. And that was, she just gave you the breakdown of it. Like in this case, we are talking about the importance of making sure that high school education includes personal finance, some type of financial literacy, something. And she gave you the breakdown. Like you go talk to your congressional members, whether you can send them a letter, whether you want to subtweet them, whether you want to show up in the office, because they are available to meet with their constituents. And like you said, they want to get reelected, and they know they don't get reelected if they aren't making people happy. So as long as you get, a few friends together to do this, and it's the same with student loans. That is how, even though we know at the time, like you said, at the time of this recording, SCOTUS just knocked down that student loan forgiveness. But best believe Biden administration is already on something else, because they recognize like this is a topic that you can't just ignore. So the more noise you make, the more you speak up, the more likely it is to get the results you want. Now, while they are looking up their congressional members to contact, I want them to also look up how to get in contact and stay connected to you. So let us know, where can people find you? What are your socials? What, if anything, you have coming up in the next few weeks that people should be paying attention to?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, MissBeHelpful is my handle on every platform: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. If you want to find me on social media, just type in MissBeHelpful, MissBe helpful. And usually I will post anywhere I'm going to be. If I'm going to be speaking at a conference, if I'm going to be traveling, usually I'll like kind of post it on social so people know. And then in terms of the book and the work that I'm doing around the book has its own site. So mindyourmoneybook.com. You can go there to buy the book. You can go there to learn more about the book. The chapter descriptions are there. You can learn more about my story there, and you can also download the free guide that comes with the book, which has a bunch of extra resources that I wish I had when I first started learning about money, calculators, articles, all types of things that I have found to be really helpful. And so either one, find me on MissBeHelpful on social media, or go to mindyourmoneybook.com. And then if you want to reach out to me, do not hesitate. Like I'm very much an open book, even though people get like a little nervous to reach out to people with a lot of followers. I respond to almost every single message that I get. I really do. If I respond late, I'll respond late, but I still respond and will let you know, my best answer. I'll point you to a certain direction if I'm not the right person. Or kind of let you know what events are coming up. So I'm right now working on a summer series. I'm trying to do in-person events in major cities, to do book signings, to do like meet and greets, meet the author, readings. So stay tuned for like dates like that are going to pop up throughout the coming months. So July, August, September, October, through to the end of 2023. And then also in the fall, I'm going to be planning a student tour. So I'm actually looking to go to schools, high schools, and especially community colleges, really reaching the audience that kind of needs the financial literacy, but may not get it. And it's kind of like on that cusp of like, oh, if you just missed it, then like, will you get it? So community college is like near and dear to my heart. A lot of my siblings went to community college. I really want to make sure to reach that group because they just missed high school. High school financial literacy didn't get required till then. And then now doing a 2-year school, usually they don't include financial literacy. So just trying to, catch young people so that before they go make all the big money mistakes that I made, hopefully we can catch them right before that and they don't miss the boat.
I support that. Now, listen, when you come to DC, let me know.
Yes,
I'm going to invite my peoples, my community to pull up, show up, support for your book. And there's definitely a few community colleges. I mean, more than a few. There's a lot of colleges here in the area where I am sure we'll be happy to welcome you, make you feel, give you a proper DC welcome. And it would be great to have you. Thank you. It was great having you today for our Rich Like My Melanin, Everybody Knows Somebody Who Knows Somebody Who Knows Something About It series. We continue to, on behalf of my community, I wish you much success. I know you will be successful because you've already done so much and you have the momentum, the resources, the opportunity to do more. That is not me putting pressure on you. Whenever you're ready to stop, you can stop. But know that as long as you want to keep going, we're rooting for you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. This was so great.